Asgardia is a nanosatellite which symbolically took all the Asgardians to space, and it monitors the radiation environment, which helps us collect data for the analysis of data storage, which will happen in the future. You've seen what the space and space station like. We hope Asgardia will have artificial gravity, and that would allow us to live a normal life. Today, from the nanosatellite, we are moving towards constellation on the low Earth orbit. We are moving towards the constellation of the satellites on the high low Earth orbit, and then eventually to the arcs. We call them space arcs, the future space station of Asgardia, space arcs, term coined by Dr. Asgardia, where there will be artificial gravity. You've seen there is a lot of life science experiments ongoing. One of the functions of long-term stay in space is ability for humans to reproduce. So it's one of the medical goals of biological medical research, to see how artificial gravity can be induced, because it's critical for survival of the human beings in space. Ultimately, we are talking about orbital stations in the moon orbit, and we are talking about moon settlement. All these, of course, are the artistic impressions of what we visualize our beautiful Asgardia to be like in the future. This is a picture of the moon settlement, indeed, what it can be like. And this is how we are looking to build it in the upcoming years. We're aiming to have the population of 150 million people. This is 2% of the population of the world. The brightest, the smartest, the most creative people who enjoy life, who want to be part of building the future. So my second message to you is join Asgardia. It's up to you to make it work. Dr. Asgardia, who is one of the greatest visionaries and thinkers of the modern times, has made it happen. He set it forth, he funded it, he put it forward. He is now building the fully functional state, the state which will be taken forward by the people who today are just growing up. This picture, I like it personally, it's very much in contrast with the latest picture from the ISS, where you have seen also the people celebrating the end of their mission and departing from the space station. We hope in Asgardia, in the arcs, in the moon settlements, we will have plenty of space to live a more familiar, more common life, more usual life, the life which we here enjoy on Earth, while of course it will be built to protect against the threats of the radiation and other hazards. In Asgardia itself, we'll be working to build facilities to protect the entire Earth against any threats which come from space, be it natural or man-induced problems which can arise. Therefore, today we are on the path of building the technological projects, and with these projects we are inviting you to join, we're inviting you to propose startups, we're inviting you to join Asgardia, share with you our ideas. We're setting up Asgardia Academy, which will give specialized space training to the professionals who have joined but want to learn more about the space. We can continue. And I have not yet mentioned, but I will now, amongst national symbols, there is a national anthem of Asgardia. And please join me, stand up. Let's honor the national anthem of Asgardia. Thank you very much, dear ladies and gentlemen, for sharing this very special moment with me. You can join us at Asgardia.space, and tomorrow myself and my colleague Anna, who is our Director of Marketing, will be here at 11:30 in the area here on the left from the main stage. And we would love to meet each and every one of you in person and discuss with you anything you like, and most important, to hear any ideas you might want to share. And now the floor is yours, and I'm here to answer your questions.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
You told a lot of things, like the satellite that is within the geostationary orbit and beyond it. The difference in the structure and the size of it is due to the presence of Van Allen belts.
We are talking about low Earth orbit. We're not talking about geostationary orbit.
No, you're not going beyond geostationary orbit.
No, we're talking about the arcs, the satellites now, the constellation in the low Earth orbit. And then we're talking about the high altitude of low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit spans from about 150 kilometers to about 2,000 kilometers. Geostationary orbit is 36,000 kilometers. It's where your television satellites are. Geostationary is because basically when you have the Earth, geo, and you have a point, and the satellite turns at the same speed as the Earth, so it's always hanging above your television. So we are talking about other purposes than geostationary at this point.
How do you plan to build the ISIS? ISIS is like a small stuff. Like if you want to take a community towards the space and make them live in a community in space, how do you plan the logistics part?
Well, again, it's a long-term future. Today I can only give you a conceptual answer. Today we are clear, again, on a conceptual stage where I can share on the satellite approach. Today we have a nano satellite which is doing tests. We're working on a constellation of the satellites which will be doing tests and then implementation of data storage and data exchange mechanisms which are unique in terms of software protocols, and this will add to the security of the data exchange and data storage. Ultimately we will be building our own cryptocurrency and economic system, and that will also be functioning within the security grid of the Asgardia satellites in the low Earth orbit. Eventually we're talking about space arcs. Again, space arcs will be in the low Earth orbit, maybe at higher altitude than the International Space Station, but those nevertheless are the Earth orbit stations. And the main difference will be that we are talking about elevators. Asgardia is in a way a country of elevators in the various meanings of this word. This is a social elevator, this is a technological elevator, this is an elevator for the bright young people like you who want to come in and work hard and make brilliant careers. We invite you and we want to do it. And in the literal meaning of the word, space elevator is the future of space transportation. Yes, it's not tomorrow and it's not next year, but actually the world has been developing at a very high speed. If you think about it, Google is only 20 years old, so some of you were not born. And believe it or not, when I was 20 years old, I didn't even have stationary landline at home. Imagine now living without a telephone, and yet I survived and I'm standing here today. We believe that in 10 plus years, nanotechnology would allow space lifts. So when we talk about space arcs, to come back to your question, we are talking about using lifts, space lifts literally, to get into space with the help of the technology-based elevators and live in the space arcs in the low Earth orbit. Ultimately, Dr. Shurbeli, who is a scientist and a system engineer, is setting goals which he believes himself he can achieve in his lifetime. Therefore, he sets the goals of space arcs and moon settlements. These are the two main destinations which we're discussing for the period of more or less next 25 years.
Then the other question that I want to ask is, you told about the lower orbits. What about the scenario of a space debris calamity?
This is another subject. Indeed, this is an area where Asgardia is working. Protection of Earth from any threats of space. Threats of space include space debris, it can be meteorites, it can be asteroids, that can also be debris from the satellites which are already out of date. And there are even so-called grave orbits, orbits which are full of satellites which are out of their lifetime, operational lifetime. The idea of removing dead satellites from orbit is also one of the ideas which is studied broadly in the aerospace community, because indeed this can form a lot of danger. So it's one of the areas of technological innovation and the areas of development of Asgardia, how to create tools which prevent asteroids, meteorites, man-made debris from hitting the Earth and from hitting the space objects as well. If you look at the space station now, for example, it sounds unbelievable, but the shell of the modules of the space station, it's aluminum, which is 2-3 millimeters thick. So actually, when there is an anticipation of a meteorite coming in the direction of the International Space Station, the crew goes and sits in the Soyuz vehicle. That's a totally different ballgame, because Soyuz capsule is made in such a way that on the way back from space to Earth, it goes through plasma and it survives the plasma, so you literally fly through a yellow fire. So when there is an expectation of anything hitting the space station, the walls, which are 2 millimeters thick aluminum, the crew actually seals itself for that period in the Soyuz vehicle to be safe. So what you are asking is a very valid question. It's valid for space objects, it's valid for life on Earth, because not only it can hit something in space, it can fall. There have been accidents, dramatic accidents, where things have fallen on Earth and people had catastrophic consequences. It's not a part specifically of the human settlement platform, but it's one of the technical areas of development of Asgardia indeed, to build specific technological platforms in space which provide deflection of the objects, which provide destruction of the objects, which basically, again, protect the entire Earth, and through that benefit the entire humanity, benefit every person on Earth, protecting any person from a disaster which would impact anybody, no matter where an impact can come from.
Okay, thank you.
As Asgardian from a really early stage, I have a question. I'm an Asgardian too, for this.
Welcome, fellow Asgardian. Nice to have you here.
I have a question. What about other planets or even the moon? What do you think about this?
Moon is a natural satellite of the Earth, indeed, in our vision and the scope of the destination, which Dr. Asgardia defines as achievable goals. We do not talk beyond moon settlements at the moment. Again, Dr. Asgardia is a successful businessman and scientist with a track record of achievements which he has set out to reach. So he is clearly setting the current goals as those which he's convinced he can see through personally in his lifetime, which is a space ark as an orbital platform and settlement on the moon. Therefore, we for now do not talk about visiting other planets, just the natural satellite which the moon is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have previously talked about preventing debris and protecting Earth from outside danger. What about the inside danger? We know that Earth is currently being affected by pollution. Current space rockets can carry up to 3, maybe 5 astronauts. What would be the effect on Earth to carry so many people as to populate a huge settlement? Yes.
Again, these are two questions which naturally indeed fit together, as you have rightly put it. First of all, Asgardia, by its Declaration of Unity and Constitution, does not interfere into the affairs of the earthly states. So it's totally valid, totally legitimate, and very important what you're talking about, the environmental issues of the life on Earth. There are other great organizations on Earth which work in solving this problem and raising public awareness and educating people into implementing policies worldwide. As a person, I am a big fan of recycling and lean engineering, and I applaud organizations which make serious work about it. We in Asgardia have our own goals, our own vision. We collaborate with all those who share the general values, but we work in the direction of space. So to answer your questions, it's perfectly important, valid. We are happy to collaborate if there is an area of technological innovation, because there are spin-ins, spins-outs where high-tech industries can help each other. Because, for example, again, well, you probably don't know, in order to breathe in the space station, you need an atmosphere of 30% of oxygen. This is actually more oxygen than we need on Earth. And this atmosphere, therefore, is highly inflammable. So when they were defining first spacesuits in the space station, they were developing a material which is called Nomex. This material is specially made, so it's breathable, it's nice to use, it's soft, but at the same time, it is not as flammable and as any other material with similar characteristics. Guess what? The fireman suits are ever since made of Nomex. It was invented for space. This is just the most obvious, simple example of the spin-off technology. So again, when we talk about environmental protection, out of the top of my head, without knowing much, I'm convinced that there are similarities in the technologies which need to be used, and they can be used for solving Earth problems and for solving problems in space. Therefore, we are open to cooperation, so if any of you are working in the area of environmental projects, think about it. Maybe it's actually very valid for space. Come to us, talk to us. We are available. We're open to invest into startups which bring brilliant technologies into the future. Again, I will repeat, Anna, our marketing director, and myself will be tomorrow at 11:30, and we will be happy to talk to all of you and to hear your ideas. In terms of the launches, like we spoke before during presentation, we are talking about nanotechnologies, which are the basis of the space elevators. So this is a totally different technology than the technology of launching into space. Indeed, if you multiply it the way you suggested arithmetically, you take Soyuz rocket today, which launches 3 people, and indeed it breathes out a lot of deposits from the propellant. If you multiply this by hundreds, it sounds disastrous, and it's not the way to go. America is now building a vehicle which will be launched maybe in the next 2-3 years, which is based on Falcon Dragon, SpaceX combination, which will fly maybe up to 7 astronauts. Again, we're talking the same order of magnitude. This is not a solution for the hundreds of people. You are right, it produces a lot of residue and deposits of pollutants. It's not the way to go. The way to go is nanotechnology, future technologies, and we believe that in 10+ years' time, this would be available. So when we're talking about space arcs, about settlements of Asgardians in hundreds in visiting space arcs, we're talking about nano elevators.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hopefully you will install solar panels on Asgardia to produce clean energy, and will you establish wireless power transferring route to sell or buy energy from Earth?
Hopefully. I can only agree with you. This is something in the future. And again, if you are from that area, if you are from that specialization, from that industry, come and talk to us. We have expert community who support us. We have the panel of leading experts who are space-related technologists, engineers, and scientists. So if you have any ideas you want to discuss, to put into practice, to turn into businesses, please come to us with these ideas, and we make sure to involve the best people in the industry to help you evaluate how promising your technology is, and we have an opportunity to invest into this as a startup and make it work. So yes, you are right, I have no answer to this, but you are totally right that we need to look into this together.
All right, thanks.
Is Asgardia affiliated to UNINUSA, like the United Nations Office for Outer Space Treaties?
Asgardia as a country, as a nation, is working towards recognition, ultimately to be recognized by United Nations, the head office United Nations. In the political sense, Asgardia is already informally holding bilateral negotiations with some countries to achieve bilateral recognition as states. Once this is done, we will be talking to the United Nations to being recognized as a full member state. United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs actually is located in Vienna. That's one of the reasons why our legal headquarters on Earth is located also in Vienna. So we know each other, we follow each other's programs, we know what they're doing, but we are not working with them at this moment as in close partnership, or we are not a member. However, we are very aware of what they're doing, and there are a lot of goals which we share.
And also, can you explain what is a nano elevator? I heard of space elevators, but nano elevators...
It's the same, maybe I used the wrong term. We are talking about space elevators, but basically its basic structure is nanotubes. It's possible. If you come into a building, you press a button, you go up by the elevator, it's hanging on thick cords. In very trivial sense, it's just a nanotube, which is the source of the support for the capsule which goes into space.
Okay, thank you so much. And the time is up, I'm very sorry, but thank you so much for everything, and you can find her tomorrow. So
at 11:30 we will be here, and we would love to talk to you more and take some great pictures. Actually, whoever has another 1 minute, please join me on stage. I would love to take a picture with all of you with the beautiful sign Asgardia.
Andate tutti sul palco così fate una foto.
Make please 5 first.